that. All right, so let's look at number one. I give you a graph, and oh wow, okay. I give you a graph. I tried to label as best I could so you could see where the points were. The graph appears to do something like this. Let's see. So it does this, this, that, that. Okay, so part A says find f of negative 2. So what is that asking me for? Find the y-coordinate, right? Find the y-coordinate of the point that corresponds to an x value of negative 2. So you go to negative 2 on the x-axis and you look for the point. It's right there. It's 1 unit high. So the answer is 1. How about part B? F of 1. Same thing. You go to the x-axis, you go to 1, and you figure out how high your function is. So what is it? 0. It's on the x-axis, right? How about part C? C is different than A and B. It's saying where is the function 0? So it wants to know the x values where the function, its height is 0. So that happens here, here, and here. There's actually 3 different answers. And what are those answers? Negative 3, 1, and 3? Yeah. And you could put those like that, or you could put them in braces like this. Where is the function 1? It happens here, right? Right here. The function's value is 1. There's also another place here, right? And then there's another place here. Now those are hard to just eyeball and have an answer. This one's obvious, right? Where does this happen? At x is negative 2. So I know negative 2 is one answer. And then on the test, I would let you just estimate this. Okay, so what do you think this value is approximately? 0.8. You can say 0.8, that's fine. And then what about this value right here? Yeah, 3.5, 3.4. As long as you are identifying that it's not, it's a little bit bigger than 3, or this one was a little bit before 1. That okay? So these 2 parts can be just estimates. And that takes care of number 1. No questions on that?
For the f of x equals 1, so we have negative 2, 0.8, 3.4.
Yeah, it's the x values where your y value on your function is 1. Right, so we're looking for where is the height 1? Here, here, and here. So we come down and get the x values.
I understand now.
The other two, this is about the point. There's a point here. It's about 1 unit high.
Oh, okay.
Right? I didn't put dots on them on the graph. You're plugging in x is negative 2. So 1, 2, there's negative 2. And what's the output of the function there? The output is 1. Yeah? All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2, what we're going to be doing is evaluating a function. So I give you a function, I ask you to plug various things into it. Do y'all remember doing this? I mean, we did do this. Do y'all remember this? Yes? Okay, so 3x squared minus x plus 1 is the function. I forgot to put f of x in front of this. Okay, so part A, f of 3. What does that mean I need to do? Just plug in 3 for all the x's. So that's going to be 3, and then 3 squared minus 3, and then plus 1. So just make sure you do your order of operations here correctly. I'm going to square the 3 first, which would give me 9, right? 9 times 3 is 27. So I have 27, then minus 3, then plus 1. So what's that? 25? Okay, part B, f of negative 1. So you're going to replace the x with negative 1. So 3, negative 1 squared minus negative 1 plus 1. Now the thing here is that you make sure you use your parentheses correctly. You're going to replace x with negative 1, so put negative 1 in parentheses and square it. What's negative 1 squared? What is it? Positive 1, right? Then times 3. So you get 3 here. What's minus minus 1? Positive, so plus 1 and then plus 1. So you should get 5 here. And then for part C, we want f of x plus h. So that means you're going to replace all the x's with x plus h. Am I moving too fast? Yes? All right, well, you got to tell me, you got to...
I had a question.
Okay.
On 3,
Yeah.
and negative 2.
Where?
That one go with 1 above?
The-
Yeah, that, how did you go with that down?
How did I, where did I get this from?
I know that, but I'm saying like after that.
Okay, so you square negative 1. That's negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1, times 3, which is 3, right? Then you have minus a negative means plus. So that's plus 1. And then I had a plus 1 already. And then I just add them up. Yeah? I plan to move fast, but you tell me, you like, just stop me, all right? Because it's your grade, right? So you want to make sure you clarify anything now. All right, I'm going to come to this function here. I'm going to replace my x's with x plus h's. So I have 3. I have x plus h. I need to replace that and square the whole thing. Then minus, in parentheses, x plus h, and then plus 1. So all the x's have been replaced with x plus h's, and I put them in parentheses. I must square x plus h, right? I'm going to do that right here, just on the side. X plus h squared means x plus h times x plus h. You do not just square each one, right? You don't put x squared h plus h squared. That's incorrect. You have to do the FOIL. So x times x squared, x times h is xh, h times x is also xh, and then plus h times h, which is h squared. The middle two are like terms. They're both xh, so put them together. I get 2 of them. So this piece right here, x plus h squared, turns into those 3 terms. What's sitting out in front of it? A 3. So this is going to be 3 times, in parentheses, x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Okay, so that's just this part. Now distribute the negative through. So minus x minus h, and then this plus 1 is still sitting here on the outside. What next? Pass that 3 through, right? Distribute the 3 through. So you get 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared minus x minus h plus 1. Can we put any of this together? Like, can we combine any of these? No, none of these are like terms. X squared, we don't have any other x squareds. X times h, we don't have any other x times h. H squareds, we don't have any other h squareds. X's by themselves, nope. That's it, that's your answer. All right, that takes care of number 2. Number 3, I ask you to find the difference quotient. Which means you need to know what it is, right? Like, you need to know what the difference quotient is. So remember the difference quotient, I'll put it over here. DQ is what I called it, is f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. That look familiar? Okay, that's the difference quotient given any function. So in number 3, I give you a function f of x equals 3x minus 4 and ask you for the difference quotient. So what I need to do is figure out what these different pieces are. There's top left corner, top right corner, and then the bottom, right? Those are my 3 elements that go into the difference quotient. The hardest one to get is this one right here, f of x plus h. So let's go ahead and figure out what that is first. So if I replace x with x plus h, I am plugging in x plus h for x. Who's going to do that on the test? Any volunteers to do that instead? What did this student do? What did they do? Okay, so they took this, they said, oh, x plus h, all I do is just throw an h on the end of that, right? Trust me, someone in here is going to do it. Somebody in here will do it. I don't think I've ever had a test where someone didn't do that. Is it going to be you? Who's it going to be? No? You? Okay. We have a couple of volunteers. Thank you very much. All right, this is the correct way to do it. You're replacing x with x plus h, right? How about this? Who's going to do this? Any volunteers to do that? What's wrong with this? Yeah, that 3 is multiplied times whatever you put here, right? So if you put x plus h there, the 3 has to be in front, and there has to be parentheses so that you can pass the 3 through. These are both incorrect, but common mistakes. All right, let's go ahead and distribute 3x plus 3h minus 4. Can I clean that up at all? Can I put anything together there? No. No, so that's it. That's the top left corner, all right? What about f of x? That's just given to me, right? So I already know what f of x is. It's this. And then h will always be h. So I'm ready to just put it all together now into this. So my difference quotient will be, this is f of x plus h, so 3x plus 3h minus 4 minus, now what do I subtract from that? 3x minus 4, f of x. But when I do that, what do I have to do? Do I just put 3x minus 4 like that? It has to be in parentheses because you're subtracting the whole function. So you have to subtract the whole thing, which means you do that. Then all over h. Now distribute that negative through the parentheses, and do you all remember what should happen if everything was done correctly? You should get things to cancel, and all that should be left should have h's in it. Okay? So you'll see 3x and negative 3x cancel, minus 4 and plus 4 cancel, and all you're left with on top is 3h. And on the bottom you're left with h, right? And the h's cancel, and you just get 3. So for this particular problem, the difference quotient was 3.
Wait, can you do the, can you show me that bottom one again? Why you started X?
Why what?
Why you started X and everything else?
What's 3x take away 3x?
Oh, so you just take out.
They're gone, right? You're subtracting the same thing. What's negative 4 plus 4? It's gone, right? So that's why they're x'd out. And this 3h didn't have anything that killed it off. So it's still there. And then the bottom still had h. So then you cancel. Yes?
Are we going to have the different formula on the test?
Don't plan on it. I don't think that's that much to remember.
Are we going to have any formulas?
Let's see. So far, we haven't really needed any formulas except that one. Let's go through the whole review, and then we'll see how many formulas we wound up using. All right, let's do number 4. When I was a student, I wasn't very good at memorizing. So what I did is right before the test, I would sit there and try and remember. And as soon as they handed the test to me, I wrote everything down. Okay? And if you forget in that 30 seconds, well, you need to get more sleep. Okay, I want the difference quotient for this. So we have to do the same thing here, don't we? We have to do the same thing here. We have to do f of x plus h. Now, look at number 2, part C. Didn't we do this already? Number 2, part C? It's the same function. Do you see that? Number 2, number 4 are the same function? Okay, so we've already done the top left. I just wanted to cut down on time. So what is the top left for us here? What was our answer for 2C? 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared minus x minus h plus 4 plus 1. That's this, okay? Or y'all understand? I'm not showing the work because we already did that in 2C. Yeah? Okay. We need to subtract from that what? The entire function, right? So all of that up there, minus, and then the whole thing in parentheses. Then all of this divided by, I don't know what's going on over there, but they sound like they're having a lot more fun than we are. What's that? Humor me, humor me. Okay. What am I about to do here? What am I going to do? Distribute, yep. Negative 3x squared. And really all it does is changes the signs. Changes all these signs. And then all of this over h. Now, when I do that, I should get a bunch of stuff to cancel. So what goes away here? 3x squareds go away. X goes away because I have negative x and plus x. 1 and minus 1. And nothing else cancels. So all we have that remains is 6xh, that's still there, plus 3h squared. And then I see a minus h in there. You see that? Then all of that over h. And like I said, the goal was to try and get it so that everything that was left had an h in it. So what we'll do now, the final step, will be to factor an h out of the top. Greatest common factor. They all have a single h, so we pull one out. And then we'll cancel it with the one on the bottom. So when we pull the h on top out, it'll look like this. H comes out. I'm left with 6x plus 3h. And then, very important here, what's still there? Minus 1. all of that over h. And then you cancel the h's. So when you cancel the h's, all you're left with is what was on top. But I pulled an h out, right? So I pull an h out of this, now I have just 6x. Pull an h out of that, I have just 3x, or 3h, and then pull an h out here, you get a negative 1. That's it. It's okay? All right, let's move on. By the way, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all from Chapter 2, Section 1. All right? Problem number 5 and number 6 are going to be from 2.3, just so you know. We did problems like this in class, and there were problems like this in your homework. All right, number 5. If f of x is negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 3, then I ask you to find the x-intercepts, find the vertex, find the maximum, and then to graph this. This is a quadratic function. So if you go back and you look at your notes, we went through a set of steps in order to graph these. So I'm going to do this by graphing it, because once I graph it, I can answer all these questions, right? So I'm just going to go through the steps for graphing. Anyone remember the first step for graphing a quadratic function? That is one of the steps. That's right. Does it open up or down?
Down.
See, you don't need cheat sheet. You got this. All right, so does it open up or down? It opens down. Why? Because you have a negative 4 in front of the x squared. So this opens down. So we know it looks like this. So right away you can tell me, does this have a maximum or a minimum? It has a maximum. There's a highest point on this graph, not a lowest. Now, I don't know what it is yet, but I know that it has a maximum. Okay, it opens down. Now, after that, what did I ask you to do? Intercepts are coming. They're coming.
Check the last number, right? Find the vertex.
Vertex is the next step. Let's actually find this point.
Is it 3?
No, 3 is the Y-intercept. So vertex comes next. And to get the vertex, we have a formula. Negative b over 2a. H is negative b over 2a. Does that look familiar? And then you get the k. The k is f of h. In other words, we're going to do this computation. It's going to spit out a number. We're going to take that number, we're going to plug it into the function. That's going to spit out the k. And that h and k are basically the x and y coordinates of that point. So for us, what is b for us in this problem? Maybe I should put that up here. What's a? What's a here? Negative 4. What's b? Negative 8. And what's c? Positive 3. So I'm going negative 4, negative 8, and positive 3. So in this formula, what's negative b? It's the opposite of 8. Or sorry, the opposite of negative 8, which is going to be positive 8. So we have positive 8 over 2 times what? A, which is negative 4. So we have 8 over negative 8. And 8 over negative 8 is negative 1. So to get k, what I'm going to need to do is take negative 1 and plug it into the function. So this is almost, now I'm asking you a problem, this is almost like number 2 part B. I'm just asking you to plug a number into a function. But that's our function. So how about this is negative 4 and then negative 1 squared minus 8 times negative 1 plus 3. replacing all the x's with negative 1s. Negative 1 squared is 1, and then times negative 4 is going to be negative 4. What's negative 8 times negative 1? Positive 8, so plus 8, and then plus 3. And if we do that, negative 4 plus 8 plus 3, we should get 7. So that means my vertex, this point right here, is the point negative 1, 7. Questions? All right, now the X-intercepts. How do you find the X-intercepts? You can try and factor it. We're going to set the equation equal to 0. So we're going to set negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 3 equal to 0. And now we can try and factor. And if it does not factor, or if we can't figure out how to factor it, then we'll have to use the quadratic formula, right? Those are our two options here. So let's see if this factors. I think this is a tricky one factoring-wise. It's not like super obvious. I'm going to go ahead and go through this. What I'm going to do is take negative 4 and multiply by 3, and that gives me negative 12. I'm going to look at the number in the middle, which is negative 8. And I'm going to try and come up with two numbers using my brain that multiply to be negative 12 and add up to be negative 8. So 6 and 2. But if I do that, if I do 6 and 2, it'd have to be like negative 6 and positive 2, right? To multiply to be negative 12. But those don't add up to be this. 4 and 3. But one of them would have to be negative, right? And that's not going to add up to be negative 8. 12 and 1, that's not going to add up to be, right? So what do you think? It's not happening, right? Quadratic formula. We're going to need the quadratic formula. Not everything is going to factor. So let's use our quadratic formula. So here's what I'll do. This is what I normally offer to classes when we have quite a few formulas on the test. So here's my offer. When you take the test on Tuesday, and I hand you the test, I'm going to give you the option of using a formula sheet or not. Now, the formula sheet is something that you would have to create. Just use a sheet of paper. You can write on the front and back. Formulas only. You can't have anything worked out. Okay, you can't have problems worked out. You can't just take this review and like work out all the problems. Formulas only on this sheet. I will check them. I will come by and I'll look at them. If they have anything other than formulas, I'm just going to throw it away and you lose it. Okay? You can't like, oh, well, let me erase that. No, it's gone. All right? So formulas only on the sheet. So you can have the vertex formula, negative b over 2a, right? You can write h is negative b over 2a, k is equal to f of h. You can have the difference quotient, all that quadratic formula. You can put that. But here's the deal. Okay? Sounds great, doesn't it? If you use a cheat sheet, you will lose 5 points on the test. So an automatic 5-point deduction. If you do not use a cheat sheet, it's an automatic 5-point bonus. All right? So there's an incentive if you try and remember these things. There's the incentive there that you'll get a bonus. The downside is if you need the formula sheet, the highest you can get is a 95. Yes?
If we do what you said and we remember.
If you remember it and write it all down right when I hand you the test, that's fine. Yep. No, that means you'll get bonus, 5 points. But if you don't actually come in with the physical cheat sheet to start the test, you get 5 if you don't, you get minus 5 if you do. Sorry, that's the best I can do. All right, quadratic formula on this. So the quadratic formula, I can't believe that all of y'all don't have this memorized. I thought maybe y'all, like, on the weekends, y'all hang out with your buddies and you're just like, oh man, that quadratic formula, that's so awesome. Negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's just some cool stuff, man. I must say, if you get a permanent tattoo of any formula, you may use that. Okay? That's okay.
What did you say?
If you get a permanent tattoo of any formulas, you can use that, no penalty.
Well, there is.
No. If it's tattooed on your body permanently, that's okay. That's just okay. No, what's that henna stuff? No henna. I mean, it's got to be the real stuff. Okay. No takers. No one's ever done that. No one's ever taken that offer. Okay. All right. What's that? You know what? I'll give you 10 extra points if you get it. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not ethical. That's not ethical. I can't do that. Okay. All right. So let's. Yeah, I can just see the chair of the department sitting me down in the office. We've got a bunch of 1324 students that have tattoos. We need to talk about this. No. You should probably only have a math tattoo if, like, you're a math major. That's probably the only time you need to have. I have one.
You do?
Yeah, I have one.
Show the formula.
I have a math tattoo. Yeah. It's not fancy. It's just no, it's not pi.
I was thinking.
No. Yeah, it's just a symbol. It's a symbol. That's all. Yeah. It's the plus symbol. That's it. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a calculus symbol. All right. Do this. Do this. Come on. So this is, all right, let's plug in. What's negative b? 8, right? It's negative, so it's 8, and then plus or minus square root b squared. What's b squared? Negative 8 times negative 8, which is 64. Minus 4 times a. Negative 4 times c. 3. All of this, the entire thing, over 2 times negative 4. All right, in class when I did quadratic formula, which was a long time ago, I suggested you just cover up this minus sign and figure out what those three numbers multiplied together are. And that should give me a negative number, right? Because I have a positive times a negative times a positive. So what is 4 times negative 4 times 3? It'd be negative 48, right? And then I'm going to subtract it. So I'm going to have here 64 minus negative 48. Then all of that over negative 8. And when you subtract a negative, it's really the same as adding. So this is 64 plus 48, which is 112. On my bachelor party, I wanted to get a tattoo. A math tattoo. And my brother was in charge of me that night. You know, he was responsible for me. So he calls up my wife-to-be. He's like, he wants a tattoo. And yeah, he was asking for permission. I don't know why he did that, but my wife said, is the mathematical formula that he wants correct? And my brother's like, I think it is. What's that?
He's a math teacher.
It's hard to explain. Are you good? What's your major?
Math is hard to explain.
Okay, so when you know when you do know, when you find what it is that you like, and if it's in education, if it's something you can pursue a degree in, you go to graduate school, and all you do is eat this, live this, and that's your passion, then you'll understand. I have a lot of friends that get, some barbed wire around their arm or something like that. It's like, that doesn't have any meaning in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So for me, a tattoo has to mean something. It represents a part of my life that I was totally just math. Yes?
I'm willing to make a deal with you.
Okay, all right, I'm ready to hear this.
I will pay for you to get a math tattoo if, like, I'm easy 100 on a test or something.
Oh, no. You know I can't accept that offer. Yeah, I wound up not getting that tattoo because my brother could not confirm that it was 100% correct. And I was very upset with him because he's an electrical engineer. And I was like, you should know this formula. And he didn't know it, so yeah. Sorry, I cannot accept money to improve your grade. All right, you're going to need your calculator here. You need to figure out what the square root of 112 is. Okay? It's going to be a decimal, 10.58. Let's go 10.6. Is that fair? So we have, now that this equals 8 plus or minus 10.6, we said, over negative 8. I've seen this happen before also, and I don't know why it happens, but some students do this. They put square root of 10.6. It's like they already took the square root to get that, right? But for some reason they forgot they took the square root. The square root's gone, right? Because you took the square root of 112. So it's gone. And now what you have to do are two different solutions. You have to look at the positive and the negative. So I'm going to do 8 plus 10.6 over negative 8, and then this one's going to be 8 minus 10.6 over negative 8. So when I add that up on top, I get 18.6 divided by negative 8. Who's got that for me? Negative 2.32? 2.3, good enough. All right, this one, when we subtract, we should get negative 1.4 over negative 8. That's approximately what? Point? We should have a negative over negative, right? So it should be positive point 3, I'm getting two different.
It's negative 2.6 when you subtract 10.6 from 8.
What did I do?
Bad math.
Bad math. Oh, yeah, that's bad math. I'm going to go get that tattoo removed. 2.6, sorry. 2.6. And then divide.
Negative
0.3? 0.32. Okay, we'll just leave it 0.3. All right, now we have two X-intercepts. All right? These are our two X-intercepts. That means that if we write these as points, it's negative 2.30, and this one is 0.30. And these are going to be dots that we put on our graph. All right, let's keep going. What's next? We've got the vertex, we've got the X-intercepts. Remember the next thing? All right. Not yet. If we're trying to graph this, the last thing that we need, Y-intercept. We need the Y-intercept. How'd you know that? Who said that?
I did.
You know about?
I said.
Oh, how'd you know that?
It just,
That's what we did?
well, it's like, that's where, like, that's, I just remember that being the Y-intercept.
Okay.
So, like,
So when we do a parabola, we do, does it open up or down? What's its vertex? What's its X-intercepts? What's its Y-intercept? That's it. And then we plot all the information and we draw the picture. So the Y-intercept is next. To get the y-intercept, all we have to do is plug 0 into the function. That's what you do every time you want to find a y-intercept. Just replace your x's with 0. If you go back to the original function, everything dies off because you have like -4, then 0 squared, and then it was -8 times 0, and then plus 3. Was it -8? Yeah. Okay, so you're replacing all the x's with 0. The only thing that's left is the 3. So this is also a point. It's the point 0, 3. You plugged in 0 for x, you get a y value of 3. And it's picture time. Okay, here comes the picture. All right, when I draw this, I'll start out with my vertex. My vertex was -1, 7, wasn't it? Okay, so that means I'm going to go to the left 1 and go up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 up there. And I'm going to label that point -1, 7. That's my vertex. What are my x-intercepts? Let's see, -2.3. So, bless you, if this is -2 and this is -3, -2.3 is about right here. -2.30, that's that point. And then 0.3, positive 0.3, is to the right over here. It's about right here. So that's 0.30. One more piece of information to graph, and that's the y-intercept, which is 0, 3, which means 1, 2, 3 right here. Now you don't need this part of the graph, but do y'all remember what that was called? That vertical line, that axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. So that helps you draw this. It should look like a mirror image of itself over that line. And it's going to look like a U, right, down? So I'm going to go through these points first like that. And I'll try my best to do the same thing on this side. It's not going to be perfect, but there you go. Good enough. Don't draw a V, okay? Don't go up to a point and back down. Curve that, because that's what parabolas do. They curve. All right, now we should be able to answer all these things. Part A, do we have the x-intercepts? Yes. Do we know the vertex? Part B. Yes, so you would write those as points. All right, what's the maximum or minimum? So this is a little tricky. It's actually asking for the y value of the vertex. Because you're trying to say, what's the highest point? Like, how high is that graph? So the answer would be 7. The maximum of this function is 7. Okay. Let's move on. Pardon? Yeah, there's no minimum. Now, what if it would have opened up instead of down, we would have had a minimum, and it still would have been the y value of the vertex. Still would have been the k. All right. Number 6. All right, you have r of x is x times 75 minus 3x. You have c of x is equal to 125 plus 16x. Now, I didn't put any details here, but r of x is the revenue. I'm saying that's the revenue function, and c of x is our cost function. So part A says to find the p of x, which is the profit function. So you have to remember, what is profit? Profit is revenue minus cost. So that means to find the profit function, I need to take the revenue function and subtract the cost function. Now, before I actually do that, I'm going to look at my revenue function. I'm going to distribute that x through. What would I get if I distribute the x through? 75x minus 3x squared. And I'm actually going to rewrite that in descending order. That means the highest power of x down. I'm doing that purely out of convenience in knowing where I'm going with this. I know that I have to take that and subtract this, right? That's what I have to do. Take this function and subtract this function. So I'm going to write that down right here. I'm going to take the revenue function, which is negative 3x squared plus 75x, and I'm going to subtract 125 plus 16x. Is that correct?
So why did you put this at the top? This 75 minus.
Why did I switch the order?
Yeah.
Just because when we look at polynomials, we prefer to look at them in what's called descending order, which means the highest power of x goes first, then you go down with the powers. All right? I could have left it like this. I could have left it like this. The reason I didn't leave it like this is because I'm going to have to combine it with this, right? So that means I'm going to have to remove the parentheses. If I want to put anything together, I have to get rid of parentheses. So to do that, I just distribute the x through. So then I take this. That's p of x. Sorry, that's our revenue function. That's r of x. And I'm subtracting from it c of x. And I asked you, is that correct? It is not correct. What is wrong? I need parentheses where? Right here. Because you have to subtract. Look, the formula says you subtract the entire cost function. So I need to subtract this whole thing, right? Which means I need to put the minus out in front of the whole function and then distribute the minus through. So my profit function, I'll put it back up here. My profit function should be negative 3x squared plus 75x minus 125 and then minus 16x. Can you combine any of those things together? 75x take away 16x, right? You can take these and subtract. So you should have negative 3x squared with 75x minus 16x. 59x. And then minus 125. This is your profit function. So what do I ask next? When is profit 0? So what am I asking you for? It's the break-even point, right? It's when revenue equals cost. But I could go back and look at revenue and cost and set them equal to each other. I could do that. But this is my profit function, right? And so when I'm asking when is profit 0, aren't I just asking for the x-intercepts of this parabola? That is a parabola, right? This is a quadratic function. I just want the x-intercepts. So to do that, just set that equal to 0. So part B, I'm going to set negative 3x squared plus 59x minus 125 equal to 0. And I'm not quite sure about that factoring there. I don't think that's going to factor. I think we're going to have to use a quadratic formula for that. And these are big numbers, right? So my solutions are this. X is equal to negative b plus or minus, sorry, I don't know 59 squared. So I'm using the quadratic formula. Negative b, there's b, negative b plus or minus 59 squared. Oh, I have to use my phone. Whoa, what was that? 3,481 minus 4 times what? Negative 3 times what? negative 125, right? 4 minus 4 times A times C. All of this divided by 2 times negative 3. I'm curious. This is actually a homework problem. I mean, one that I assigned you, this problem. Same revenue function, same cost function, same instructions. Curious if anyone recognizes it. All right, so 3481. Okay, I'm going to cover up the minus sign. When I put those three numbers together, am I going to get a positive or a negative? Positive. So 4 times negative 3 times a negative 125, I get 1,500. And it's positive. But I'm going to subtract it. So this is minus 1,500. And then all over negative 6. When I do this underneath the root, when I take 3,481 and I subtract 1,500, I get 1,981. And then all over negative 6. Then I have to take the square root of 1981. $44.5. So let me take this up here because I'm running out of room. So I have negative 59 plus or minus 44.5 all over negative 6. And then I have to do the two cases again. I've got to go negative 59 plus this, then divide by negative 6, negative 59 minus this, and then divide by negative 6. Understand? I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to do it all on the calculator. The two answers I get from this are 2.41 something. I'm going to say 2.42. And then the other answer I'm getting 17 point what? 25? 17.25? I'll trust y'all on that. Okay. That will answer part B. When is the profit 0? Profit is 0 when x is equal to this or when x is equal to this. Those are two different places where my profit is 0. And that should make sense because this is a parabola that opens down. It opens down because there's a negative out here. So I should have two places where my profit would be 0. What is the maximum profit? And then part D, for what x value do you get maximum profit? So what is that really asking me for? Part C and part D? What's the highest point? It really wants to know H and K, doesn't it? Look at C and D on the review. Part C is asking for which of these, H or K? K. It's asking for K. What's the maximum profit? Part D is asking for what value of x do you get the maximum profit. They're asking for H. So we need to be able to compute now H and K for this function. So what's the formula to find H? Negative b over 2a. So for us, b is 59, right? So this can be negative 59 over 2 times negative 3, which is negative 59 over negative 6. And we're going to get a decimal. What is that? Approximately what? 9.8? Okay. That's H. How do we get K? You plug in that value into the function. So our function is the p function. I'm going to put p of 9.8. And yes, you'll need your calculator here. This is going to be -3, 9.8 squared plus 59 times 9.8, and then minus 125. So you've got to square 9.8 on your calculator. You've got to multiply it times -3. You've got to go 59 times 9.8 on your calculator, and then put all of this together. Does this seem too far out of line? I mean, it was a homework problem, so if you're freaking out now, you should have been freaking out when you were doing it. And then you should have asked me for help. All right, this seems like I should have brought my calculator, but I'm gonna go kind of slow through this. 9.8 squared, right? I have to do that. I hate this calculator.
96.04.
Yeah, 96.04. So I'll do it under here. This is -3 times 96.04 plus, I'm going to do 59 times 9.8 is 560.5, and then minus 125. I still have to multiply these two. So -3 times 96.04. So this gives me -288.12 plus 560.5 minus 125. I'm ready to put all those together. I'm getting something like 147.38. Right? Anyone else get something like that? You got 165? Did I type this in wrong? 288.12 plus 560. Try this again. 96.04 times. Did y'all get that? 288.12? Plus 560.
What's the difference of 59 and 9.8? You got a different number than us.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah. It should be
59 times 9.8. Yeah, 570. What did I type in? Hold on, I can bring up my history. What did I type in? This calculator sucks. Yeah, should have an iPhone, right? Everybody else does. Okay, yeah, this should be 578.2. And then that turns this into what? 165? 0.08. Okay, we need to, this goes there. All right. We need to figure out what's the answer for part C. It's the 165.08. That's the maximum value of the profit. That's the maximum profit. Part D says, for what value of x do we get this? And that's what? 9.8. All right, we only have 15 minutes, and there's quite a bit to go here. I'm not saying your test will be this long. I was just trying to give you a review that covered all the material that we've done. So any of this is fair game. I might decide not to have something on, but I will not add anything that's not on here, okay? If it's not on here, it's not going to be on the test. But you need to be comfortable doing everything on here. Number 7. All right. We are now moving out of 2.3, and I believe it's 2.4. It's polynomial functions and rational functions. Now, I sent you home. There was a take-home quiz that unfortunately I don't